So let's wait for another 30 seconds. Great. I see the number has stabilized now, so I can start again. A very warm welcome, everyone. And thank you for joining us today in this webinar on digital product information systems for sustainability and circularity. My name is Archana, and I am the moderator for today's session. I am the coordinator of the Lifecycle Initiative, which is a multi-stakeholder partnership hosted by UNEP. And with our colleagues from One Planet Network. We have been working for over a year and a half now on creating a blueprint for a global governance system for digital product information systems. Today's webinar marks an important milestone where we are going to launch the blueprint, and you will also hear from some of the experts with whom we have been engaging in past year and a half on how things are advancing in their specific areas in their specific countries. Before I share the agenda for today's meeting, I would like to inform you all that this meeting is being recorded, and I would encourage all of you to use the Q&A function and ask questions. And I would also request the panelists to just continuously check the Q&A functions. And if there are any questions that are directly addressed to them or they can answer, please do engage with our audience and respond to their questions. On the next slide, you will see the agenda for today's 1.5 hours of program. We have an opening followed by a quick short introduction to the initiative under which we have started this work, followed by some presentations from different countries on how they are working on digital product information systems, what they are doing, they're going to share with us. And towards the end, we will be sharing key insights from the blueprint, the work, the research that we have been doing for the last year or so. Without further ado, I would now like to invite Jorge Laguna Cilias. He's the head of One Planet Network, hosted by UNEP, which is a global community of practitioners, policymakers, and experts working to accelerate the implementation of SDG 12, for his opening remarks. Jorge, over to you.
Thank you very much, Archana, and dear friends that have gathered today for this launching webinar. The Digitalization for Circular Economy initiative, as many of you perhaps may be aware, and just as a small comment, the reason why I choose the background that you see on the screen today, which mentions these three keywords: rethinking, reusing, extending, and harnessing digitalization to advance the circular economy, were the three keywords at the heart of the launching of the Digitalization for Circular Economy initiative already 3 years ago, which was at the time co-led by the One Planet Network, CODES, and a number of partners which are with us today. Our mission at the time, when we launched our seminal report, was to harness digital technologies to scale circular economy practices that are, on the one hand, environmentally sound, but on the other, socially inclusive. What we did then with a number of partners to turn this vision into action was to create two intervention labs. The first one was on digital product information systems, and today we celebrate a significant milestone in this regard. But we also launched another intervention lab on business models that are harnessing digitalization for circular economy. And not long ago, only a few months, we already launched a first assessment with over 12 global innovative companies that are, as a matter of fact, using digital technologies and digital product information systems to improve the traceability of their products, to innovate on the way they design, and to better serve their communities. This work, and particularly the milestone that we celebrate today on digital product information systems, has been no small task. And this is why I want to pay a specific tribute not only to my UNEP colleagues, to the World Business Council on Sustainable Development, to ITU, to UNIDO, especially to the Wuppertal Institute, and as well the European Commission and many other actors that have joined forces to combine their expertise, their networks, their resources. In 2024, we assessed three elements in this framework: the data requirements, the technology landscapes, and the readiness of companies in the global south to implement, for example, legislation in the framework of the EU digital product passports. Our findings have revealed the critical challenges of interoperability gaps, data inconsistencies, and sector specific issues in areas such as textiles and ICT. The conclusion that we have gathered all it is that we need a global sector agnostic framework for DPIS in design, governance, and data categories. We like to call it digital product information systems, but because we believe in neutral terms, but these are indeed also known as digital product passports, so we use it interchangeably. The framework that we advocate for is expected to give a voice not only to low and middle income countries, is expected to enable market access and sustainable trade and serve a diverse range of stakeholders, from small and medium enterprises to consumers, governments, and global companies. In short, it's about what the UN stands for: international cooperation for circular and sustainable economies in a resource constrained world. The blueprint that we launched today, and which we're very proud to announce, it is a first phase in this journey. It maps the current landscapes, identifies gaps, and outlines steps towards a more comprehensive, what we hope, global framework. It is, from our perspective, a milestone, a foundation that we hope to use to build up for further action. Let me just conclude with an important message in terms of this work that we are announcing today. We believe that our work that we have developed, it's particularly compatible and supportive of international frameworks that are already existing and available, particularly Recommendation 49 under the UNECE CFACT process. We believe that while the UNEC focuses on trade data, interoperability, and trust frameworks, the blueprint extends these principles to product level sustainability data, ensuring that digital product information systems align with global trade facilitation standards without duplicating effort. And this is why we're very proud to stand behind today the blueprint that we launched and our collaboration with the number of international institutions that are helping advance the dialogue that we advocate for. And we advocate for inclusive global consultations for pilots, use cases that can show how DPIS can support sustainability policies and multilateral environmental agreements. Today, myself, I personally, and I hope you are too, very excited to hear about a number of interventions, a number of innovations that are happening on the ground in important countries that we'll speak today. I also want to celebrate increased partnership and uptake from the private sector actors. Specifically, let me make a big shout out to Sharmet Trade Federation, who will present the wonderful work that you are doing and whom we are looking forward to partner in this important endeavor. I want to thank India, China, European Commission, Argentina that had made time to connect with us today, and especially to you that you have set time for this discussion. My final message it is regarding the goal of the framework. We want a framework that balances competitiveness with accessibility, that combines the ability of consumers to get the information that they need to buy more sustainable products with the need of making data that is usable for companies and regulators alike. We know that success depends on broad participation from countries, companies, international organizations, and civil society. We all have a role to play. So, if you're connected today and you came for this discussion because you're interested on digital product information systems, you are in the right place. I want to conclude by inviting you to join our Digitalization for Circular Economy initiative. Myself and the wonderful team here, Archana, Bruna, and all the colleagues connected are here to follow up this discussion and ensure that together we deliver greater impact for people and planet. Thank you very much and looking forward to the discussions today.
Great. Thank you so much, Jorge, for the opening remarks and for setting stage for the conversations that are going to follow. Before we talk about specific initiatives from countries that Jorge mentioned, and thank you so much again for the countries to join us and share their specific work in this space. I would like to quickly give you an overview of the Digital for Circular Economy initiative, which is a joint effort between the One Planet Network and the Coalition for Digital Environmental Sustainability to direct the trajectory of digital transformation so that it accelerates and scales environmentally and socially inclusive circular economy. Overall, by improving sustainability of products and services, and as well as facilitating behavior change to protect the planet. And the D4CE partnership, D4CE is digitalization for circular economy in short. Partners led by UNEP decided to work on digital product information system about a year ago, and that's where the journey started. On the next slide, you will see why we thought that there is a need for such a conversation, more specifically around creating a global framework on digital product information system, because we see a lot of uptake coming in from countries, a lot of initiatives coming in from multiple countries who are adopting and regulating digital product information systems. The most popular ones, and some of them you will also hear today, in this webinar, being the digital product passports of the European Union. We've heard Russia has also developed a DPIS to avoid counterfeit for a large range of product categories. Uruguay, for example, is adopting traceability platform for plastics value chain. There are other countries who have also adopted or are in the process of adopting and developing digital product information systems or traceability platforms. So, for example, Argentina, you will hear from them today in the webinar. Mexico, China, India, Australia, and many other. While the use of these digital tools can drive transparency and sustainable circular economies forward, each country region is taking a different approach or monitoring distinct aspect. This ongoing trend has created an opportunity to address the long-standing need for harmonized, coherent information for consumers and for government stakeholders as well. And that is why the One Planet Network, along with the Life Cycle Initiative and the Office of Digital Transformation, the Office of Chief Digital Officer within UNEP, along with our high impact teams, we started developing a consensus on the information for DPIS. UNEP is particularly interested in achieving a globally agreed data categories and subcategories on product sustainability information. You will also hear from colleagues in Wuppertal Institute an overview of these data categories later in the webinar today. High level international consensus around key issues for digital product information systems, including accessibility, including interoperability, transparency, and open source technology. And this process also will put consumers and developing countries or in transition economies needs at the forefront of these discussions. On the next slide, you will see, and it's just to highlight the multifaceted benefits of digital product information system in advancing global sustainability and cooperation agenda. Interoperability and governance is important and is needed by promoting harmonized data and shared governance. And through digital product information system and through the framework that we are developing, we intend to contribute to seamless integration across systems and stakeholders. In in view of stakeholder support and to empower countries, one of the objectives, as you may know, especially those who've been engaging in the consultations with us for last 1 year, we want to empower countries to identify and realize the potential of DPIS by fostering inclusive development, also help facilitate market access and trade by enabling sustainable global trade, driving innovation and economic resilience, and finally, global cooperation, which can serve as a catalyst for international collaboration, helping transition towards circular and sustainable economies. So that's the overall objective with which we initiated the work, and we have been working in this space on the development of a global framework. On the next slide, you will see how we are approaching it. It's overall has been a co-development exercise, which is certainly a key aspect that we want to highlight. That we are building this together. It's not a UN framework or any specific country framework, but it's a co-development exercise where we interact, we engage, and we learn from each other, and then develop this process and this framework. We're not starting from scratch. We are building on existing standards, and it's all about consensus, getting everyone involved. So as Jorge mentioned, please do reach out to us because it's not the end. It's just a beginning of the work that we are doing, and we need your perspective. We need your inputs and your regional concerns, your national challenges to be able to help us define and design this framework. There will also be pilot testing to make sure that it works in practice, and we are starting with our first pilot test in Argentina. We will hear from colleagues in Argentina also later today. And with this, just to share the overall timelines with you, mentioned on the next slide. The first phase started in 2024, where we did a lot of groundwork in terms of the technical landscape mapping, what is possible, what is needed, what are the gaps, etc. Now we are in second phase, where today we launched this blueprint, which lays the roadmap for digital product information system. We will do pilot testing, which we are hopefully going to start soon, later this year. And more specifically with high impact sectors like ICT and textiles. And in the next phase from 2027 onwards, I think the idea is all about scaling up, awareness raising, and we need your engagement in those aspects. So with this, I would like to stop speaking and invite our next speaker, Chaitanya, who is an Associate Director, Electric Mobility with the Sustainable Cities and Transport team at WRI India, where she leads various research and project initiatives on electric mobility at the national and state level. She's going to talk about a batteries passport that they have been developing in India. Over to you, Chaitanya.
Thanks, Archana. Am I audible?
Yes, very well.
Yes, you are.
And my presentation is shared right now, right?
Yes.
Great. All right. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I will be speaking about the fairly nascent initiative to develop a battery passport for India. This is an ongoing conversation in the ecosystem right now. Maybe for about the past 2 years, there's been a lot of discussion about how this is needed. But of course, there is a lot of differences in stakeholder requirements and alignments on this topic. And so we have started a structured engagement to try and take this conversation forward, because we do feel like there could be multiple benefits across the value chain if only this was taken deeper and there was sufficient collaboration across the board. So, and the terminology battery Aadhaar is that's what we're referring to as the battery passport equivalent for India. And the reason for this is the terminology that was used in an official document which referenced the digital battery passport of the EU and said that a similar exercise for India would help in accelerating the electric mobility and battery ecosystem in the country. So just very briefly, I think I'm preaching to, I mean, no, I may not be preaching to the choir for a change since many of you come from many different sectors. But why batteries, right? Batteries are being largely driven by a demand in two sectors, in renewable energy for better renewable energy integration in the grid, and when it comes to powering electric vehicles. And at least for the foreseeable near future, we see that electric vehicles will be driving that demand across the country, across the world. So we expect about 6 terawatt hours of battery capacity required to be coming into existence by 2030 across the globe. And on the left, you see multiple use cases, mostly grid related, but also traction related for powering electric vehicles, where lithium-ion batteries are going to be critical for enabling a clean energy transition. Next. Sorry. Yes. And now with that background of, okay, battery demand is going to explode across the world, we also see that there is a large number of critical battery minerals that are going to be essential for powering this battery ecosystem. And the extraction and processing of these battery minerals has both social and environmental considerations in terms of responsible mining, ensuring communities are not adversely affected, ensuring that the sustainability and life cycle emissions of batteries are not are managed to the best extent possible. And this is where there is a strong need for circularity, right? So circularity, at least from the India perspective, India is looking at enabling both a clean energy transition, but also ensuring economic growth and at the same time growing into a developed country. So in order to decouple sort of this economic growth from the emissions, circularity becomes an essential aspect in terms of ensuring that many of the minerals that are already captured in the existing batteries are put back into the system. At the same time, of course, I think we're all aware of the geopolitical risks that are opened up because of the high concentration of the global EV battery chain, battery supply chain. And there is an professed understanding for greater diversification and greater energy security for countries within each of their own regions. And for India, which currently does not mine any of these, apart from some graphite, rare earth minerals and copper, lithium, cobalt, nickel are not mined in India right now. And so how do we ensure some amount of self-sufficiency in our critical mineral requirements as our own battery demand grows? And how is that battery demand growing? By 2030, about 1/10 of that global 6 terawatt hour demand is expected to be in India, largely powered by electric vehicles. And while there is some initial efforts at localizing the supply chain happening, today, there's only about 18 gigawatt hours of battery pack assembly that happens in India. Cell manufacturing is still being set up. It is expected to grow rapidly in the next decade, but there are also constraints. So while we have about estimates of 200 gigawatt hours coming online of cell manufacturing capacity, we'll need to see how that pans out. Now, in this context, right, this is the context in which we're bringing in the idea of the battery digital product passport, which is visualized as a digital record for every battery available on the market. And there's been a big debate within our local circles also about whether to call it a passport, whether to call it an identity document, because an identity document like a UIN, unique identification number, just establishes that this is the idea of this battery. But a passport also tracks the movement of that battery across the supply chain, right? From the time it is a fully formed battery with the battery OEM to the end use case application, and then its end of life management, be it going into second use, second life applications, or into recycling, right? So that is where the term passport comes in. And here, very briefly, we have sort of highlighted some of the data across the battery value chain that could be contributed by different stakeholders. And it's important to see that there are a number of stakeholders across the battery value chain, which is where, again, battery data sharing becomes vital. So right from cell component manufacturers who can give you the chemical composition and recycled mineral content within a new battery, to EV manufacturers and consumers who own the data of an in-use battery today, but could make that open for people. Again, but this also brings up a lot of competitiveness and privacy issues, right? Which I think the EU, because of the digital product passport, battery passport regulation, has been dealing with. And as we initiate conversations, we also hear as a concern from OEMs. They say this is our data. It's our competitive data. It could be sort of economically sensitive for us, for our competitiveness. Consumers say this is my data. If I am going to be in operation, how is my data going to be shared with others, and how, what does that do for my privacy? So these are sticky issues that do need to be resolved. But at the same time, there are multiple benefits of ensuring a digital product passport for batteries, right? So right from at the mining level, where ethical sourcing decisions can be taken. Because a battery passport is not just the data of a battery that is being transmitted, it's also allowing you to create due diligence systems, because data for those systems is suddenly available. So a battery passport doesn't automatically have to require, necessitate ethical sourcing decisions. But if that is the objective of the battery passport, as it is in the EU, then systems will develop due diligence systems around it. Similarly, there are multiple other use cases like battery state of health and residual value estimation, which is a big issue for India. Which is a very cost-conscious economy, how do you ensure you're realizing the entire value of the battery? And a big part of the transition to EVs, one of the blockages or obstructions to that has been the fact that strong residual value has not been established for used batteries in the ecosystem. So while people know that for their internal combustion engine car, they can get a certain value, for an EV where 50 to 60% of the value is locked up in the battery, they don't know what the resale value of their vehicle is or of their battery, right? So there are different use cases that become important, both economically and from the perspective of social and environmental considerations. And they are, sort of mapped out here. Next. Again, here we very briefly map a few of the global battery data management initiatives that different countries have been taking up. I think in China, in South Korea, there have been efforts at, there have been regulations that necessitate unique identification numbers. And a few other countries have started discussing battery passports as a potential idea. Of course, the EU is where this has developed most strongly, which I think will be covered in a subsequent presentation. So in India, what is the situation today, right? If we're looking at it, there are the battery waste management rules, which require a minimum amount of data from producers, which, because there is an extended producer responsibility in the country for EV and other end use case application producers and suppliers, and for recyclers and refurbishers. So there are the inputs required as per the battery waste management rules are listed in the table. So for producers, it's got what batteries, what is their sales data, and then there are targets for recycling based on the year in which they put a certain stock of batteries onto the market. But what is missing till now is battery level tracking, verifiability of the reported data, and interoperability, as well as very limited data being captured than what could be. Now, if we are talking about a battery Aadhaar, what would it look like, right? These are the various players again. So you have the mining processing companies, cell component manufacturers, battery OEMs, EV OEMs, providing the data, which can be used by reuse and recycling companies, financing companies, energy networks, government institutions. And just to sort of highlight, I'm going to just let all of these come in one go. So when we mapped the various use cases that would be of value and significantly of economic value, because let's get this straight. In India, there's no regulation mandating a battery Aadhaar or a battery passport. So we're looking to see if there is a market-driven approach that can be taken here, because it's not a regulation-driven approach yet. While we are also exploring the possibility of whether there is a policy framework that can come in to enable this and ensure its uniform application, we also feel the need that in order to have industry on board, and it is important to highlight the economic value proposition of the battery passport. And these are a few: battery as a service. So there are more and more business models where someone is acquiring the battery at the beginning and owning it across its entire life cycle in order to maximize extracted value from this. This could be enabled by a battery passport. The financing sector, a lot of EV financing, battery energy storage system financing could be greatly enhanced and made more affordable if it is de-risked by better battery data sharing with financiers. Battery vehicle to grid solutions. There's also a lot of energy transactions that are now expected to take place between energy assets like charging infrastructure systems, battery energy storage systems, someone's rooftop solar, and there may be at-home battery storage. So how do you enable that? How do you enable those transactions? And how do you have batteries integrated as energy assets within such sort of peer-to-peer transaction systems? As well as for regulatory due diligence, right? If you're verifying EPR mandates and ensuring compliance, battery passport could be a powerful tool there as well, among other things. So WRI India, along with a bunch of other, actually it was an industry-led effort, which WRI India supported. We did, in order to sort of take and spark the conversation of a battery passport further, presented a prototype of the battery passport. So we had a major vehicle OEM, Tata Motors, and solution providers who also had battery passport solutions, etc., who actually worked with us, and we presented a concept prototype of the battery passport to a union minister at the national level. And this was done in May 2025, so 4 months ago. And this has been instrumental in sparking a large conversation around battery passport and its necessity for the country. And now we are working with a wide range of stakeholders across the ecosystem to do these 4 things, right? We see this as a 2 to 3 year program to understand what the scope and use cases of the battery passport in India are. So like I said, ethical sourcing is not a huge concern for India right now. A bigger concern has been, and this is based on whatever we're hearing from stakeholders, right? A bigger concern, in fact, has been the quality of cells that are imported into the country. So upstream integration of data, because a lot of the battery value chain is outside the country. How do you ensure that? And how do you ensure good quality of imports through that has been a bigger concern. So we understand that the use cases and the objectives of the battery passport in India may be different. So what does that mean for India? And because Indian companies, a lot of them are much smaller MSMEs, may not have huge ability and capacity to do a lot of due diligence and compliance or to comply with a lot of due diligence systems. So how do you ensure that there is a ramped up process? In the end, we do believe that there needs to be sort of a unified network or framework across the globe. But how do you ensure that this is ramped up from the most critical use cases and then sort of to be harmonized with global standards? Number 2, what is the technology stack and digital infrastructure look like? We have a lot of closed loop solutions for battery passports already proliferating among companies. But as was already mentioned by previous speakers, there is a need for an open access, interoperable sort of framework on top of which private solutions can be built so that nobody is locked into the technology and so that there is that ease of public good of, peer-to-peer and renewable energy integration, which is optimized because of the interoperability. So can we design this framework on top? So at this early stage, so that you don't have too much legacy to fight with. So that's number 2. Number three is what kind of some of the pilot demonstrations we can enable to test these frameworks and use cases. And number four is really establish the value proposition of the battery Aadhaar from day one for each use case. What is the potential savings? What is the potential revenue that can be generated? Because we are finding that in order for this to be accepted by industry, that will need to be, along with sustainability, a core pillar of the battery passport design. So this is just sort of, again, reiterating that if you're looking at way forward, you're looking at how to enable a policy and regulatory framework, yes, but also what are the business models, what are the data management technologies that don't enable too much, that are also affordable, that are also cognizant of the, maybe more patchy internet services and digital connectivity in rural parts of India, right? So what are these technologies that can enable a lower impact connectivity where it's not easily available. So all of these will need to be considered. So that is the overview of where we are at, what some of the considerations for the country are, and how we see it moving forward and progressing. Thank you.
Thanks, Chaitanya. And I know you have to leave now, but you will be following the discussion. There are some questions in the Q&A, so if you can also answer, if possible, but maybe...
as soon as I get into the taxi. Thank you, Archana.
Thank you. Thanks, Mawa. Next speaker that we have is Alberto. He's a chemist with more than 20 years of experience in environmental field. And since December 2023, he has served as director for Basel Regional Center for South America and provides advisory support to Geo7 and MESAG, amongst others. He's going to talk about the challenges and opportunities for DPIS in South America, more specifically the textile sector, and a pilot in Argentina. And Alberto, I would sincerely request if you can stick to 10 minutes. I know previous speakers, including myself, we have not stick to time, but I would appreciate if you can kindly summarize your presentation in 10 to 12
Yes,
minutes.
Arcana. Yeah, thank you very much. So we are going right to the point. We are part of the Barcelona Convention Regional and Coordinated Center. First, I present myself, Alberto Santos Capra, I'm the director of the BCRC Argentina. We have a network in the world about regional centers that has to do with the Basel Convention and the Stockholm Convention. And we are in South America. We are based in Buenos Aires at the National Institute of Industrial Technology. Saying that, we are talking about, my presentation will be about what's going on in the South America region and some pilots we are developing with UNEP, and these are the partnerships we are here in the group. So what's going on in South America? We have lack of specific regulation in countries about a digital products information system. Pilot initiatives are focused on traceability. We have some examples, I will say later, in Argentina on textile. In Colombia, it's being implemented. We are trying to do it with the Basel Convention, one pilot project in Uruguay about batteries. The participation in international processes, we are participating in the UNEP international process framework, and we have limited business adoption, but growing interest among companies. So where are the next steps in the region? So active participation in designing this global framework, scale national pilots regionally with international funding if possible, identify priority sector for applying sustainable consumption and production criteria based on the tool we are developing, and with relation of life cycle and EPR systems. Develop public-private academy partnerships to facilitate digital market transformation, and coordinate these activities agendas with others like biodiversity, climate change, desertification, chemicals, human rights, transparency, among others. What are the main regional challenges we have in South America? Insufficient digital infrastructure for mass adoption, regulatory framework and lack of harmonized frameworks, limited technological capacity, low awarenesses among consumers and supply chain sectors, and the question that we already have with the previous colleague, and that Laguna says, the interoperability with international systems is a very relevant thing. We have gap and we have challenges in traceability and data. So as I said, insufficient infrastructure, countries need laboratories and technology systems, for example, for traceability of new substances that is coming in the Stockholm Convention, like PFAS, inadequate funding. So we need investment in focus on human resources and workshops rather than have system technologies, especially in small and medium companies. Limited data sharing in the supply chain sector, often unwilling to share confidential information. This is a barrier. Lack of standardization, no common taxonomies, so that we need a taxonomy for chemical substances, preventive data interoperability. I make good of the time to saying that there is a new group in the framework unit that are working with the footprint of chemicals, so that we have quite clear information, maybe as a taxonomies, and communication gaps, information is not always comprehensive or useful for all audiences. Companies need some requests, consumers are different, are recyclers. So we had several meetings, one in Brasilia some months ago about this tool, jointly with UNEP. And we have some key regional recommendations: develop a standardized chemical taxonomy, as I said, invest in young professionals with sustainability-focused design approach, that it would be with joint work with the universities and invest research institutes, incentives the private sector, promote the use of digital product information system through regulatory frameworks or competitive advantages, education and awarenesses, and strengthen regional cooperation. There are quite a lot of opportunities for South America: early alignment, access to new international markets, sustainability requirements, improved competitiveness and traceability of export, digitalization of the strategic sectors and local capacity building, and potential to strengthen the national, regional, and international circular economy. So I would like to say that we have signing an agreement with UNEP to apply one project in the textile sector with the Industrial Argentine Chambers of Textile. So the project will contribute to the 10-year program framework on sustainable consumption and production, develop digital tools to improve market transparency, integrate sustainability data into policies and economic instruments, and promote consumption practices. So we have like key activities: national regulatory analysis, pilot designs, agreement with companies, training programs, verification, users testing, and cost evaluation. That is something that is very relevant as well. How will be cost the system? It will be one system for all companies. It will be one individual system. And final recommendations about regulation, consultation, and virtual workshops. What are the expected results? Access to the ability and quality of data provided by companies according to the international framework that is being developed by UNEP and the One Planet Network. Develop a product level digital system that strengthens traceability and contributes to waste reduction and prevention as well of the use of hazardous chemicals, and analyze the economic efficiency and scalability of the implemented digital tools. So as well, let me see the next. Sometimes this is stop. So we did as well a project with UNIDO. The budget was not so much, but we did some inquiries, about 50 inquiries. In fact, we had to do 40, but we done almost 50. We did jointly with the Institute Senaí of Technology in Brazil, collect key information through service of textile companies in both countries at what they think about diagnosis within the framework of the Global South Digital Product Passport Initiative. We focus on sustainability, traceability, and chemical analysis data, and provide input for evidence-based policy design. UNIDO is going to release a report about this work. So the overview of Argentina textile sector, the level of progress and perception, knowledge of adoption of the digital passport products. Most actors show an initial interest of understanding, no concrete implementation experience for the moment. is seen as a strategic opportunity to provide competitiveness, and adoption moderate. I think that it could be in a slow trace. So the main challenges, as I say, barriers are concerns within the sector, high investment cost for the small and medium companies, management of sensitive information, lack of standardization, as I said before, risk of greenwashing, and enabling capacity in the small companies. But as well, there are opportunities, standardizing of data, compatibility with the existing system like EPR, I said before, quality, traceability, economic and regulatory incentives, tax benefits maybe, access to public procurement and sustainable markets, continuous training, and maybe certifications scheme. So it's perceived as an essential tool for the future competitiveness in the Argentina textile sector. The success depends on the implementation, that it could be with clear public policies, concrete incentives, technical training, and coordination among all the stakeholders. So this is a summarize that we are doing in Argentina and what's happening in the region about this tool. Thank you very much. And I will be ready for some questions if there are.
Great. Thank you so much, Alberto. Just in time. I mean, you've taken just 10 minutes. You've managed your time really well. Thank you so much. And thank you so much also for sharing your perspectives from Argentina, the challenges that you face. And hopefully there will be some questions in the chat for you. Next, we have experience from China, more specifically a perspective from the private sector in China. We have Mahua Yin, who holds a master degree in economics, is a certified FRM candidate, and is a carbon asset manager. She leads and promotes the Digital Product Passport project, as well as the developments on sustainable industries and implementation of their applications. Mahua, over to you. And if you can also, just like Alberto, stick to 10 minutes of presentation.
Okay. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. And we see your presentation also, if you can put it in presentation mode.
Okay, so you can see my PPT on the shared screen.
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Okay, the topic of today of mine is a global digital passport from the perspective of the private sector in China. We know with the development of global digital economy, sustainable development have shifted from information disclosure toward a digital and intelligent direction. DPP is an inevitable outcome of global digitalization. So what exactly is DPP? We can understand it from the perspective of an individual passport. Product DPP contains structured digital product information, including origin, materials, environmental impact, and life cycle data, and is a proof-based decision-making instrument for sustainable products based on verifiable and trustworthy information. With the help of QR code and chips, DPP enable quick access and data sharing among stakeholders. Therefore, DPP is a crucial tool that enhances product transparency and traceability. From this perspective, DPP is by no means a mere computer system or environmental project. It is an industrial revolution. We observe that the European Union is accelerating the advancement of relevant legislation such as CBAM, CSRD, and CSDDD, etc. In May 2024, the EU's Eco-Design for Sustainable Products regulation was officially launched, providing solid policy support for the development of product digital passport. Industry-specific policies and regulations, including the EU battery regulation, the delegated regulation on DPP for textiles, steels, and ties, have been successively introduced, and the specific implementation requirements will guide various industries. With information traceability throughout the product's life cycle, product digital passport have become a new type infrastructure for global trade and promote global sustainable transformation. Take Xiamen, China, an export-oriented city as an example. In 2024, Xiamen achieved a total foreign trade export volume of 4.98 billion yuan, with a year-on-year growth of 11.3%. Among this total, exports of labor-intensive products, including furniture, textiles, etc., reached 114 billion yuan, growing by 4.1%. Exports of mechanical and electrical products stood at 250 billion yuan. Export of agricultural products hits 18 billion yuan, increasing by 7.1%. In April 2024, the EU released its 2025-30 work plan, prioritizing textiles, footwear, furniture, mattress, ties, steel, aluminum, and ICT products like batteries. Xiamen's key exports closely match these sectors. Without a local DPP system support, companies may suffer cross-border data risks and rising compliance costs. In China, we see the impact of compliance as a way to value creation. DPP required full chain data transparency, and this drives the supply chain data sharing, and financial institutions in China may use DPP common data for credit evaluation, enabling access to low-interest green loans. And we see also the EU consumers show higher willingness to pay for sustainable products. DPPs can help validate green attributes and green premium. End users can scan to view the traceability and the environmental data, and this aligns with global green consumption trends. Digital passport in China has 3 layers. They are national level, industry level, and enterprise level. Like in Xiamen, we are planning to build an industry level public service platform for DPP registration, issuance, and management. To better promote the implementation and application of digital passport in China, we will give full play to the advantages of think tank platforms and embrace collaborations among various industries, universities, research institutions, and application entities, establish an industrial alliance, and provide a one-step service for enterprises. Specifically, we will advance the relevant work from 3 dimensions. They are technology, standards, and ecosystem. From technical perspective, we can use unique identifiers to build green digital twins for the entire product lifecycle to generate a digital data package supporting data sharing and exchange across the entire value chain. This is to achieve efficient cross-system and cross-organizational data sharing through unified data structures and standards. We are currently building a technical service mechanism for digital passport, which is centered on DPP platform and extends connections to the consumer markets via AI recommendations, professional evaluation advice, and real-time feedback, as well as to brand companies, retailers, suppliers, manufacturers, and third-party organizations. This mechanism enables efficient collaboration between commodity logistics and data and information flow. From the perspective of DPP core technical architecture, it consists of 7 major business processes, 7 categories of product data, and 7 categories of key information. The core functions of the public platform mainly include passport issuance and passport management. The passport issuance process focuses more on the efficient aggregation and unique identification of information, while the passport management process emphasizes more on the trusted evidence storage and security supervision of information. Meanwhile, by relying on the identifier assignment, data querying capabilities, and etc., the mutual recognition and connection between the overall passport system and the international system are achieved. Enterprise level DPP is mainly used for data reporting, verification, and management, and is of greater significance and value for leading companies and core chain leader enterprises. Currently, there are two main forms of digital passport standards. One is regulation-driven, and the other is industrial association-driven. We're closely following the development of international standards of DPP and working on the alignment with international standards. Currently, GF60 and the Federation are actively participating in global standards cooperation such as ISO, UNECE, UNEP. This year, UNECE established a UN-level working group for the formulation of DPP standards. We are about to formally join and participate in the development of international DPP standards, which also lays a solid foundation of GF60 and the Federation to maintain a leading position in the interconnection and mutual recognition. Okay. We have built a carbon model as well based on the digital product. Take the textile and footwear industry as an example here. We sorted out the life cycle characteristics and use artificial intelligence for data cleaning and labeling and established the basic parameters of the carbon model for this industry. There are some of the labels. Carbon models enable better extraction of data value and present digital passport result in a more user-friendly manner. Based on the carbon model, we have established a series of relevant standards aims to guide the standard application specifics for carbon footprint, recyclability, ESG, and others. To further promote DPP's global interoperability, traceability, and transparency, our work focuses on providing systematic support at the standard and technical levels to facilitate the international trade. Currently, we have established cooperations with both local and international relevant institutions such as CICT and CIC. Additionally, based on GF60's international network, we have established partnerships with international organizations including ISO, UNECE, UNEP, WBCSD, as well as international standards identification certification bodies such as GSTUV, Intertech, etc. These have accumulated sufficient external resources to support further implementation of DPP in China. That's all from my side today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Maua, for sharing what you have been working on in China. Indeed, very interesting work, and hopefully with UNEP also we will be advancing the work in the coming months. I would now like to invite our next speaker, who is Thomas Ebert from European Commission, who's going to present EU Digital Product Passport. Thomas is a policy analyst, and since September 2023, he's part of DG Connect at European Commission, and as a seconded national expert focusing on sustainable digital twin transition. Thomas, over to you.
Yes, thanks, Ashana, for the nice introduction, and thanks to all the speakers, which we just have heard, because I think a lot what I want to include in my presentation has already been said in one or the other way. Since 10 minutes is not a lot, I try to jump into it quite fast. But one thing I always stress at the beginning, because for me it's always important to understand why are we doing this. So why are we developing the tool DPP? What is it about? What is it for? And when we look at the triple planetary crisis of climate change, pollution, and biodiversity loss, you see that according to the International Resource Panel, 60% of the climate change impacts are directly linked to the extraction and the processing of resources. And similarly, for pollution, quite high share of the impacts are due to the extraction and processing phase of resources. So that clearly shows that especially in developed countries where the resource consumption is quite high, we need to lower the extraction and the processing of the resources to be able to reach the climate goals, to be able to reduce the pollution and the biodiversity loss impacts. And for this, circular economy has already been mentioned a lot, might be a tool to really use resources more efficiently. When we have like the linear model, and I don't need to go into details, I think you just take the resources, you build the parts, the products, which then in the end land in landfill or incinerated. And what we need to do, and I think all previous speakers mentioned this in one or the other way, that we need to try to keep the materials longer alive. We need to repair the products, reuse the products, and refurbish the products. And in the end, if nothing helps, we recycle the products to at least get the materials back. But these are the strategies we need to use beyond rethinking, of course. And when you look into this, it's quite obvious that nowadays these are a lot of different actors. So you have manufacturers who produce the products. They need to share information with the repairers because the repairer needs to know, how do I open the product? How can I exchange parts? Similarly, also in the first presentation, it was already mentioned, when you want to resell an electronic vehicle, you need to know what's the state of health of the battery to assess the value. So you see that along different actors, information needs to be shared. And this is the reason why we came up with a tool of what we call digital product passport. But I think the name is not so important. It's like a digital tool to link the information to the product to make this exchange of information happen. And as already just been mentioned in the European legislation, the legal basis is the Eco-Design for Sustainable Products regulation. And this is a framework regulation, so it only comes into practice when it's really the delegated act looking at specific product groups. But there are also other legislation with digital information sharing and one or other ways of digital product passports. And I listed some of them here on the right side, which already shows that within Europe already it is quite a challenge to bring everything together, to build really one solution, one digital solution, which may transport all this information in a right way. But this is our goal. And that is also stated in the single market strategy, which clearly says that the digital product passport will become the main tool for disclosing and sharing product information across all new and revised product legislation. So we really try to work to develop this one tool that fits a lot of different purposes. And for me, in the context of digital product passports, this is always one of the more complex but also more important slides. There are two different discussions which are happening, and sometimes they're happening at the same time, but I think it's important to distinguish them. So one is about what you see here on the left side on the screen, what we call DPP system. So how do we set up the technical system to enable this exchange of information? And there we're talking about how to identify products, how to manage access rights, how to ensure interoperability, which has already been mentioned. And for this, in Europe, we have a standardization request, which is done by CEN-CENELEC, the European Standardization Organizations, in JTC 24, and they look into this. But what is quite clear on that side is we don't want to invent new standards, but we want to build on already existing global standards in the best place, because we all know that the supply chains are global. So they are tasked to look what is happening, what is the situation in the industry, and what standards could be reused for setting up such a system in the European market. And there's a DPP registry and DPP web portal, which I will come to in a bit, which will be central components in a decentralized system. And then we have the second part of the discussion, and this is closely linked to the question, what data needs to be in a digital product passport? And we heard already from different actors about different suggestions for data, but this is a discussion where you really need to know, like, what are you talking about? the left side, the DPP system, you can have a system, and this is our aim, which works for all different kind of product groups. But when you look at what requirements do you put, what data points do you need, that's very different when you look at a big battery or when you look at a textile. So this is something where you really need to go into nitty gritty. And this follows in Europe the eco-design approach. And that means the working plan was already mentioned in the previous presentation. It gives me a few more seconds to elaborate on that slide. So whenever we work on a measure, like meaning a requirement for a specific product group, there's always a preparatory study happening, and this you see here in the middle of the slide, where there's somebody looking into how is the value chain for this product group and what is the environmental impacts, where's the hotspots, where can we change something, how is the readiness of the industry. And this is all dealt with in the so-called preparatory study, which are all public. So you can follow the preparatory studies and give your feedback as well. And then before we decide on a specific measure, there's also the presentation to the Eco-Design Forum, and UNEP is a member of the Eco-Design Forum. So that's also another way to give the feedback to planned regulation on specific product groups, which might include requirements for the digital provision of information for a digital product passport. And now going a bit into the details, how do we envision a digital product passport to look like? So when we start here in the top middle of the slide, you either be a consumer or somebody with specific access rights, for example, a repairer or recycler. Then in the first phase, you scan the data carrier and you go to the storage of the economic operator or the decentralized storage of a so-called DPP service provider. We include DPP service providers on the one hand side to help small companies. So we think that there will be service providers which offer the service of hosting the data of a DPP to companies, but also for another reason, to ensure that we can have a backup of the data of the economic operators. So they have to store a backup at an independent DPP service provider. And then there's the DPP web portal, which will come into play at a later stage of time, where we want to allow a search functionality so that different actors, according to their access rights, can search the data which is decentralized stored at different economic operators. And another central element which we needed to include is the DPP registry, but this is only containing identifiers. So it's not containing the data about the durability or whatever, but it's really limited to the identifiers. And this is mainly linking also to the customs single window surtax system, so that there can be an automatic control if a product imported to the market, which is required to have a DPP, really has a DPP. And when we jump into what do we think a DPP needs to look like, there are certain main requirements which I listed here. So of course, a DPP has to be user-friendly and the data has to be, the integrity has to be ensured to really have the reliable data in a digital product passport. What we also think is quite important, and I don't read all the lines here, is that it's based on open standards and we do not have a vendor lock-in on a specific company or a specific institution, but really have open standards to also enable the shifting between the data in different places. And last but not least, I saw already Surpass on the slide before. There's always a bit of a confusion sometimes what Surpass and Surpass 2 are. These are projects which were funded by the Commission. Surpass 2 is co-funded by the Commission, and it's about to deploy at scale the digital product passports in different value chains. And it's always important to say it's not necessarily the opinion of the Commission what Surpass is saying and doing. They give, of course, a qualified input, but they are different from like organizations like the Commission, but also different, may have different opinions compared to the standardization bodies. So they're independent research projects. But I encourage you to look into what they are doing because they have quite interesting use cases. And you see here on the slides the different areas where they have use cases where they want to demonstrate how digital product passports really can help the circular economy and help to create new circular business model. And with this, I'm exactly in the time, I hope, and thank you for your attention.
Thanks, Thomas, for the presentation and for sharing the work that you've been doing and for keeping time as well. Really appreciate that. We had kept some time for Q&A, but I see that there are some questions which are getting raised in the Q&A function and people are already responding. So I would encourage our participants to continue asking your questions in the Q&A forum. And from our side, we will continue to answer them. Now it's the moment where we want to share with you and launch what we have done from UNEP side in the of a blueprint for a global framework on digital product passport. And we have Holger Berg and Nathalie Post from the Portal Institute who have led the research along with the members of D4CE, as you may have noticed in the presentation in the slides that I shared, to present this work to you. Very briefly introducing Holger, he is the co-lead of Digital Transformation Research Area in the Department of Circular Economy at the Portal Institute. And his research interests focus on the influences of digital transformation on sustainable development. And along with him, we also have Nathalie from Portal Institute, who is also part of the same department, and she's working on topics related to digital product passport as part of her projects and her PhD. Holger, over to you.
Thank you, Archana, and indeed a good day to everyone. It's great to see so many people here, and I guess it goes to show that the issues we are all working on are extremely relevant and timely. And with all the 4 presentations that we have seen before, I think it becomes clear that indeed working with digital technologies for more transparency, for more sustainability and circular economy is something that has become important around the world. And so this is what we have been working on together with colleagues from UNEP, WBCSD, and the whole D4CE framework. And we want to show you today what the results have been so far and how we are going to continue and invite you to be part of this. So I think it's also become clear that with the presentations we have seen, with everything that's been mentioned and the questions, that we are in a place where things are developing, where DPIS are only emerging. And so we have a couple of deficits, a couple of, let's say, weak spots that we need to tackle and we need to work on. And I think some things that have already been mentioned are lack of standards and conflicting approaches. Many initiatives are currently very much looking at the technology, but not so much at the data that should be part of the DPPs or digital product information systems, as Thomas has just shown. And also we need to put more emphasis and bring back the idea of circularity and sustainability into what's evolving right now. Creating digital product information systems from the ends and the goals, and not just from the technology, which is important, of course. And therefore, we also have to provide data that has the right quality, and which provision is still a major issue. And so what we have been working on together and cooperating in consultations around the world is how can we create a global framework? How can we create a globally working idea of digital product information systems that everyone can relate to, especially in terms of circularity, especially in terms of sustainability, so that we have a common understanding and a common cooperation platform for each of our works on digital product information systems. And to arrive at this framework, to create such a platform, over the last more or less 2 years, we have been working on the creation of the background for this. And all this has been put into the blueprint that you can now download. The link has already been provided. And this blueprint is really the manual and the background that will enable and shall enable the creation of the global framework. It has been created with the input of many people around the globe, for which we are very grateful. And with that, now the work on the framework itself is starting, and it is something that shall be interactive again. And so we will show that later. This is also an invitation to everyone online here to be part of this work. Obviously, from this framework, we want to go into this idea of interoperable and cooperating digital product information systems. And how that can work and how it is reflected within the blueprint is now going to be shown by my colleague, Natalie. Thank you.
Thank you, Holger. And yes, next slide, please. Perfect. Having established the need for a common platform, the question remains, what is the final framework designed to deliver? So the blueprint defines 7 essential elements that must form the final global DPIS framework, organized here into 2 key functions. So first, we have the core architecture, the building blocks. So the foundation defines the system itself. This includes the main technical system components that characterize the digital infrastructure. So it also specifies the main functionalities that any system should support, and critically, the data categories provide the mandatory baseline of data that we suggest to be included in any DPIS. We also have the governance and policy element to ensure trust and cover the operational rules. So it includes things like access rights, implementation, and establishing safeguards. And to ensure true global interoperability, we identify and list relevant global standards so systems are built on and recognized in foundations worldwide. And second, we have the adoption and implementation, where we focus on the practical success of the framework. So the framework will identify the financial mechanisms and incentives needed to support stakeholders, especially SMEs, in adopting the system. And we propose the development of capacity building and skill development, outlining what stakeholders need to learn and how they can profit from using the system. So I would now like to give you a more detailed impression of the proposed categories for the framework, which are not set in stone yet, but will be presented, yes, on the next slide. Perfect. So what is the final framework designed to deliver? Looking at the categories through our gap analysis, where we reviewed scientific literature, governmental regulations, and industry standards. We defined a baseline set of 7 main data categories and 39 subcategories that any DPIS should include from our view. So this is, as I just mentioned, just a suggestion that we have. So we included the general product information and compliance data, which are standard, but we ensure they are globally consistent. So we demand detailed material and substance information to enable recycling and disassembly. And critically, we push beyond basic environmental data. So we identified the need for consumption for specific environmental life cycle assessment parameters, such as consumption and land use, that allow for meaningful comparison. And finally, we integrate these categories we integrated the categories for social responsibility and our strategy activities. So we can ensure that the framework accelerates not just environmental sustainability, but also social inclusion and circular business model innovation as well. And this brings us to our final slide, where we give an outlook on what's next. So the blueprint is the guidance, but the work is just beginning. And so looking at what is the immediate path forward, we will conduct regional consultations on the framework worldwide, and we will simultaneously implement pilot projects to test this guidance in real-world supply chains. And we will actively start to build the framework and communicate our progress within the DPIS community. So also to you guys. So this is also where you could get involved. Since the blueprint is just the foundation, your opinion will also be very valuable in the next phase of developing the actual DPIS framework. And you can stay actively involved by reaching out to our team to continue the conversation directly with us. So feel free to reach out to Dr. Holgerberg, to Leticia Montero, or to myself. Thank you all for your participation and for your contribution to this important initiative. Thank you so much.
Great. Thanks, Natalie, and thanks, Holger, for giving a quick overview of the work that we have been doing for last over a year, if I can say so. And you have, concise the information so well. I know the time and effort that has gone into producing this report, which I'm very happy that we have finally launched. And to all the participants, you have the link to the report in the chat, so you can now download the report, go to the details and the specifics of the work that Holger and Natalie presented just now. And if you have any questions, if you want to engage, please, as we said, do reach out to us. Finally, we have our last speaker of the day, last but not the least, a very important member of the D4C initiative, Reina, from ITU. Reina has studied industrial engineering and joined ITU Standardization Bureau in 2015. She is an engineer of ITUT study group number 5 on environment, climate action and circular economy. And Reina is going to share about the ITU standard development process, which, of course, from UNEP side, we are contributing to. Over to you, Reina.
Thank you so much, Archana, and I will stick to the time. No worries. Thank you for having me here. It is I'm very happy to see this first milestone of the launch of the blueprint. I remember that we started 2 years ago, and it's very nice to see this first deliverable out and all what we have done to achieve this from the different partners and all what has been presented today. So very brief from ITU side. I hope you can see my screen. ITU is the International Telecommunication Union and is the UN specialized agency for information and communication technologies. Our main goals from the strategic plans are universal connectivity and sustainable digital transformation. And our members are 194 member states, but it's also very unique because we have companies, university, research institute, and international organizations as part of our membership. Which is also good to know from ITU that maybe most of you didn't know that we are also a standard development organization recognized by WTO. What we are doing on the digital product passport, we have developed so far 2 standards, and we work on the standards for the ICT sector. So the definition according to the ITU is a structured collection of product-specific data conveyed through a unique identifier. These standards have been developed together with the European Telecommunication Standardization Institute, that is ETSI. And one is on the opportunities that the digital product passport has, and the other is the information on sustainability and circularity for the digital product passport. You have heard a lot today who are the beneficiary of the digital product passport, so I will go very quick on this. We have several stakeholders from all the value chains that can be active beneficiary of this. And you can see also that we have talk about the repairers, the remanufacturers, the recyclers, the refurbishers, the national authority, the auditors, and also it could empower consumers with relevant information. And it may have different content depending on the role and accreditation of the operator. The information contained can be relevant to materials, design, the specification, the raw material, adverse social and environmental risks to presence of hazardous substance. It can provide monitoring, facilitate procurement, reverse logistic, and facilitate extended producer responsibility. And if you can see how also today the presentations have been layout, we see that the blueprint has also this part of the categories already thought, and that will be contained in the framework. What is inside the first standard, the L1070, and something that it went to important to for me, it's important to emphasize that standards provide requirements, help on harmonization. There is a lot today was mentioned also by Alberto and by others that there is a lack of standardization, of harmonization of data. Sometimes when we need to report what it has been discussed is that we don't have a good data, and this is because there is not a harmonized methodology to collect. So that's why also standards are important, because provide specific requirements. So what is inside L1070 is an overview of the global and common opportunities, and some of the information that could contain for the ICT sector is the globally harmonized system for classification and labeling, UN number for hazardous substances and material, Basel Convention codes, transport codes, schemes for classification and labeling of raw and secondary material, transport codes, traceability registries. And it is important what is the desirable principles that are also highlighted in this recommendation is that it's useful, accuracy, inclusivity, transparency, accountability, standardization, information privacy, information protection, that I think it was also mentioned by Thomas. That is something of the scope that they are looking for the digital product passport. The data quality properties, that is accessible, that is free access to relevant information, authenticity, identifiability, composability, integrity, verifiability, and traceability. That is very important, and many stakeholders look for this aspect as well, the traceability of the product. In the other standards, L1071, we have a data model and a proposed model for the information that should contain. It also makes reference to existing standards, because some of the criteria and how you are going to include the information should be relevant to specific already standards that exist. And I think this was also mentioned by Thomas, that there is no need to reinvent the wheel, because there are some aspects, some data category that there is a specific method to collect. Some ongoing work, I also mentioned very briefly that it will be important for the consumer, what kind of information the consumer would like to see in the digital product passport. So we are working, we have an ongoing work, and inputs are welcome. Also participation is welcome. What will be the information that is needed so the consumer can access in the digital product passport, but also the reverse value chain. What is the kind of information that a refurbisher needs to know in the digital product passport? So this is an ongoing work. Another important ongoing work that is very much related to the blueprint and the framework is that with the One Planet Network, UNEP, and this initiative, the framework will be standardized in ITU, and it has already, the work item has been already created, the guidelines for a modular and scalable data system designed for digital product information system. We will cover the general categories, but we also will focus on the ICT goods. What will be the data categories, which were presented also and are part of the framework: general product information, materials and composition, instruction and life cycle information, environmental life cycle, social life cycle assessment, compliance, and circular economy are strategies. Just a speed promotion to take advantage of this audience, we are having several events this month, and also the Study Group 5 meeting. The Study Group 5 group is meeting. This event is very nice because it also commemorates the International E-Waste Days that was yesterday, because part of the digital product passport will also help for the traceability and also to reduce the help with the management of e-waste. And so we are having the MOOC webinar on the Thursday of the 23rd of October for those Spanish-speaking countries. You are invited to join. There will be from 3 to 4 p.m. Geneva time. Then there is also tomorrow on Friday ITU UNIDO workshop on e-waste in Latin America, from current challenges to future solutions, that will be in English and Spanish. So thank you to you, thank you to all, and over to you, Archana.
Thank you so much, Rena. And I think it's a wonderful way to end our webinar. Also, in terms of, our colleagues from Portal presented what we have developed as part of the framework, and you presented how we are taking this forward. So I think it's important for the participants to also know that this is not the end, but this is the beginning. And that's where I believe we need more engagement. We will certainly be organizing a lot more consultation so that you can contribute to the work that we have developed. I mean, I'm going to call it our initial research, more so in the form of data categories, and we will be organizing a lot more consultation around data categories. Some of the keywords that I heard from all the presenters today is the need for harmonization and interoperability, and I think the work that we are now developing as part of this global framework is certainly a need of the hour, which was highlighted by all the speakers. I know we have used all our time for the webinar, so I'm not going to keep you all waiting, but just would like to thank all our speakers for joining us today and for sharing all your initiatives and presenting your work to the group. And also a big thank you to all our participants. I see that there is a huge interest in this topic. Looking at the number of participants in the webinar, and for all of us, all of you for staying with us throughout the 1.5 hours. With this, I would like to end the webinar, and you will certainly hear from us in the form of, we will be circulating a quick short summary of this webinar along with the link to the recording, as well as the report that we launched today. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a nice rest of the day, and have a nice week ahead. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.